Welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. Today I have a very, very special interview for you. This actually was recorded in, I'm going to say 2005 or so, with none other than the Telecaster picking man himself, Brent Mason. This was way back before we did the hot wired pedal. This was very early in me getting to know Brent, and he'd let me sit down, pick his brain for about an hour, I think, maybe a little bit longer. I forget right offhand. But just picked his brain about all different kinds of stuff. And at that time, we actually released it as a product, kind of like a downloadable product. That was what people did back in that day and age. But here we are in 2018, and a fan of the show and fan of the YouTube and a fan of the company sent me a DVD of this because I couldn't find the file. It was gone on a hard drive that had hit the ground and was lost forever. I didn't have any backups. So he sent this CD to me, and I decided to rip it for you guys, meaning convert it to an audio file, so we could all enjoy it here on the podcast. So here we go. Enough of me yapping. Here's the Lost Brent Mason interview. Oh, and one quick side note. This being old audio, you got some background noise in it, so sorry about that. I don't know what to tell you. It's from like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and didn't have the mic and preamp setup that I do now, so you get what you get. So hopefully it's not too bad for you. Let's jump into it.
Not many know about your joking side. What's some funny things you do in the studio, like tension breakers or practical jokes?
Oh, let me see. Yeah, there's all the guys in the studio. We're joking around all the time. Between songs, just to break the tension, we're playing Looney Tunes theme songs and what's that? Twilight Zone or some. We're doing some kind of crazy stuff. But I was trying to think of one thing that I thought was really funny, and we always talk about it. It's when we were doing the George Strait album, and we were in the tracking room, Masterphonic studio. It's a pretty big studio, and we were in there, and Paul Franklin, the steel guitar player, it was right before Halloween, and he'd bought these teeth, those Bubba teeth. They're all green and brown and stuff, and you put the little gut molds inside them, and they fit your teeth perfectly, so they stick in there. So we'd get in there and put our teeth in and come out, and Paul was playing steel with those teeth in, and it looked scary because I knew people like that where I'm from. But anyway, what I thought, okay, this is going to be, because it's George Strait and everybody's trying to be real serious and do a good job for him. And so when I went to the bathroom, I went and put these teeth in, and I thought of something funny. I grabbed one of those plungers, those hand plungers, put the teeth in, and I got some wet toilet paper and wrapped it around the plunger part of it. And I come back in the studio, I carrying this thing with the teeth in, pulled down, my lip pulled down over the teeth, so it looked like it pretty realistic. And I said, George, hold just a second, boys. We're going to stop this session. We got a bad bathroom problem back there. The commode stopped up, and I'm a big fan, George, and I know you're doing an important thing here, your album and everything. But I felt that I needed to come in and tell you boys, don't be using the toilets in there for a while. We got some boys working on them. We got one feller working. He's got a Rubbermaid angler 2-ply down there angling. It's stopped up, and he's working on it right now. Anyway, what'd you eat over there? What'd you have for lunch today? We were really going
right
out there. I mean, it was crazy. They were all laughing, and we even did that. I think that went over so well. Steve Warner was doing an album, and his son was in high school.
Ryan
was there, and we even put those teeth in. Was kind of hanging around while Ryan was sitting in there. And I went, Steve, your boy's got a pretty mouth on him, and we was thinking about we'd like to take him out for some candy tonight. And we'll have him back by tomorrow evening. Does that sound pretty good to you? You know, of course, Ryan had a good sense of humor about it. He goes, "Well, no, I hear candy's bad for your teeth." So it gets pretty funny. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live skit there for a while.
Do you play extremely loud in the studio to get those screaming leads and that tone that everyone wants?
Well, you know, I'd like to play as loud as I can if it's that kind of a lead solo. And if the studio can accommodate turning those amps up, yeah, I play pretty loud. I mean, you know, I'm almost could be busting down the walls back there if it's. Now, if I'm doing, you know, if I'm using a Fender Deluxe, that thing doesn't get very loud anyway. You know, it has stock speakers in it, so if you turn that up about 3.5, you're taxing the amp already.
Right.
You know, as far as the power goes. But I mean, sometimes if I hook a 412 cabinet up and you know, like a 412 closed back and running like a VHT cranking for a lead solo, it gets pretty loud. And most studios in that we do records here, if it's a pretty luxurious budget, they'll get the Ocean Way studio or the Tracking Room, Masterphonic studio, or Sound Kitchen, which is one outside of Nashville here. It's a very big room, and it's all built to accommodate somebody, you know, rock musicians or whoever wants to just play loud, play that live band volume. They can handle it. And I'd rather play like that, just to answer the question real short. I'd rather play like that, and I think it sounds better. I mean, you're getting, the louder it is, I would favor loud over trying to get it at a soft volume, you know, because it's you get the lively tone and you record the room around it. You get a little room in the recording through the mic.
How do you develop a song from concept to record? What I mean by that is, do you practice it before you go in to record, or do you work on all the parts all at once? And also, why do some songs have great hooks while others are just kind of average?
Okay, well, I mean, I can answer that. You're thinking that you want to know, okay, let's say in a studio, okay, we're in there with an artist and they play a song. We get the work tape. We listen to the work tape of the song. Let's just say it's a bare bones work tape. We whip out our chart really quick on it. We listen to it. Some elected leader of the session, one of the guys who wants to write the chart, usually is leader on the session. So he'll play the song down. We'll all be sitting around listening to it while he's charting it out in the number system in Nashville here. And a few playbacks, he's got it all. So then they go make copies of that song, what we're going to work with. We haven't played a note yet on it. We're sitting in the control room. They'll play back the song of the work tape, and we've got our charts in our hands. And then we'll discuss what we might want to do with it. The artist will interject on how they're hearing the song and how they want to do the song. And the producer will throw his few cents worth in, and then he might ask, what do you guys think? Here's what I'm thinking. Brent, I'm thinking we're going to throw a big guitar intro on it. Could you come up with something like a big note guitar for me, signature lick? I go, okay, yeah, I'll mess with that a bit. Then I'd like organ to come in on the bridge, maybe fill the bridge and take the bridge, kind of feature the organ there. You know, we'll kind of lay it all out structurally, instrumentation-wise, and then we'll go out, and we felt like, okay, we don't want to talk about it too much. You know, we want to have fun with it. We don't want to overanalyze it. So we'll go out there, and we'll start to develop the song. We'll play it, we'll go a rundown. I'll get inspired by our playing some kind of a lick at the front, and the producer might hit the talk back and go, "That is very cool. Let's work on that a bit." What was that thing you just played, Brent? And it was just a little low guitar hooky thing. I don't think I've used it in a week or so. No, no, I don't think this might be cool for this song. And so we'll mess with that for an intro. We'll play it and get a feel for it. And then, of course, we'll play a chorus. It'll go back maybe into that intro figure again, like a turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we got the big lick for it. It could be guitar, it could be steel guitar, it could be fiddles or something like that. And if I'm going a wrong direction with it, then again the artist might interject and say, "No, this is going a little too West Coast or something that I'm wanting.
Right.
I want it to sound more Roadhouse or more swampy or we got these terms of usually regional terms, geographical. Okay, Louisiana swampy, or you want it Delta blues or West Coast Bakersfield."
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time we discuss all that, and then we actually have our instruments in our hands, we play the song through, and we just kind of go to with that creative, spontaneous flow that we have, and that makes a song too. It's not to talk about every nuance of it, but to also let your emotions do the spontaneous thing with it too.
Okay.
So all that together, by the time we've talked about the verse, the bridge, the chorus, the solo, is it going to be a fade? Or are we going to go back into an outro like the intro, and then end it? What kind of an ending would be really cool for it?
Mm-hmm.
If maybe it'd be cool for them to do live, and they need a good ending, or if it's going to be a TV show, you got to end it, not fade it, or live. So by the time we've all looked at every aspect of it, it's about ready to be put to tape.
Mm-hmm.
And a good engineer will record every tape run through, because you never know when you're going to get a good one.
Right.
He said, "I got it. Let's listen to it." Man, yeah, because I don't think we're going to top that. It was just kind of a spontaneous thing, and it had some magic in it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, from the beginning of writing that chart out on paper to figuring out the ending, all that process we went through, which normally is about, might take us an hour and a half, or a couple hours even.
Per song?
Yeah. Depends on the producer. Some guys like to work a little longer on them. Tones and stuff like that.
Can you describe your mental process when you construct a solo, regardless of whether it's spontaneous or whether it's composed?
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good question, because my idea of a solo most of the time is not to sound contrived, like you've perfected it and worked on it forever, but to make it sound spontaneous, but make it stand out too. Sometimes spontaneous, when you do so many sessions, spontaneous might be something you played just a week ago on somebody else's record.
Right.
So I like to, when I do a solo, I will do it off the top of my head, and sometimes get it because it had an ebb and flow to it. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes if I screw it up, at least I say, play that back though. It had a moment, about the 8th bar, 4th through the 8th bar. So I'll listen to it really carefully and hear how I may have slid off one note and run into this melodic lick.
Right.
And try to recreate that, but it's a real mental process then, because it's like, I don't want to make this sound like I planned it all and worked on it a long time. It's got to sound like it's off the cuff.
Right.
So it's a little bit of that, a lot of spontaneous, right off the cuff playing, mixed with a little bit, I'm going to think how I can get out of this in a cool way, and not be, make it peak in the middle before it ends. You want to build it dynamically to where it's a great solo. It starts out cool and relax, whatever it could be, relaxing, cool, or it could start off low on a low note and build yourself up to a high note. Mm-hmm. So it's got to really elevate in the middle. It's got to lead to a climax of the solo. And I like it spontaneous. Again, if one ends up like that, that's great. If not, I'll study a couple of them, what I did, or I'll take 2 passes at it, or 3, and pick the best solo. And sometimes I'll even edit it. I like the second half of that one solo, and it will fit with the first. I said, great, let's try to put it together. With Pro Tools and stuff, you can do stuff like that.
Rather than you punch in, they'll just splice them together.
Yeah, because if I will try to make one great, but it's just too hard to resist if you got two different tracks of it, files of it, or however you want to say it these days, and it'd be great. Sometimes you can, like a puzzle, put it together. Not so much at a piece, like a note at a time. I'm talking like 8 bars. That 8 bars is good, and maybe this 8 bars will fit in with that.
Right.
Because they were both off the cuff.
Mm-hmm. And they both had a little bit of magic to them.
Yeah. Rather than try to punch in, let's punch in the 8th note, and let's punch in the quarter note, and then then it's a big mess. It's a Frankenstein. But but I may be getting off your question a little bit. When I approach a solo, just from a mental standpoint, okay, here's the solo, go. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking melodic. First of all, I'm thinking melodic, real soulful. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I'm singing inside. I'm playing something I would sing, and it always has to be soulful. And I'm probably thinking a little bit of it, ahead of where I am already, where it's going to lead to. I'm thinking of, okay, it's got to get from point A to point B in a soulful way. Mm-hmm. That usually makes a good solo. And if it's, just to wrap this up real quick, I'm trying to cover a lot of areas here. Just to wrap it up, I like my spontaneous solos are the best because you can't beat them. I can tell when solos are well thought out, and then it gets kind of sterile, stagnant. Right. I love the little reckless abandon. You're kind of walking on the edge. You're running on the edge a little bit. You might fall over. Right. Then you find a way back up. I love those kind of solos. Those are always my favorite, and I think a lot of musicians will tell you that spontaneous creativity of guitar solos, that's the most fun.
What makes you want to play guitar? And what would you do with your life if you woke up tomorrow and couldn't play the guitar ever again?
Well, what makes me want to play guitar is I've played the guitar since I was 8 years old. That was the instrument that I was drawn to. When I first heard Jerry Reed play, Dad had bought a Jerry Reed album, and I listened to the guitar and what it was sounding and stuff. I thought, man, that's what I want to do, and Dad would show me a few chords. So, up from that point to here, I've mastered the instrument. That's part of me now, and I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck with the guitar. I get a little tired of guitar. I've done it so long, but there's always something new to learn on the guitar, or you hear something else that somebody else has played that makes you excited, keeps you always. But that's good because that always keeps you practicing, learning new things. But the guitar just stayed with me. It's like if Michael Jordan played basketball, what made him want to play basketball? That was what he loved. And then played baseball for a while, and it made him love basketball even more. He went back to it. Yeah. And then the latter part of the question, which was,
what would you do with your life
if I woke up and I couldn't play guitar anymore? Mm-hmm. Well, I'd try to keep it in. I'd look for another outlet and an aspect of the music I could get into, producing or writing. Mm-hmm. I'd have to be involved in the music business somehow, in the creative part of it. Right. I'd say songwriting or production, and then be depressed most of the rest of the time. I don't know.
What piece or pieces of work have you done that you feel showcases who you really are as a guitarist? Okay, well,
I've played on a lot of stuff that got critical acclaim, like Alan Jackson stuff. But it'd have to be when I made my record, Hotwired, I put a lot of different things on there, and it would just have to be that whole record, Hotwired, which it had a little bit of my jazz, prowess on there. Showed a little of that and an R&B, and then the hot telly thing, which is obviously going to be on there. Right. Some acoustic things, and it was all compositions that I'd written, most of them, maybe but one or two. Mm-hmm. I think but one. And I love to write
Is there anything specific you would like to achieve in music that you have not yet?
I've achieved a lot of stuff that I'm pretty proud of. I would love to win a Grammy for an instrumental album, or either for the players, or hopefully maybe this DVD could be up for one.
Sure.
To be nominated and win. I think that would be the ultimate, just to have that Grammy.
So when does the DVD come out again?
October 2004. So I'm not sure the exact date. It seems like the second week. Sometime. They'll be out all over every music store and any, like Media Play or Tower Records. You can get it anywhere. Order it probably Amazon.
Probably Amazon.com.
Yeah, anywhere that would carry a release. So, it's a more. I wouldn't say more. I better not say. I was going to say Morgan Free, but I'm not sure of that. But it's a Viacom owned company.
Okay. What other living guitarists have you not jammed with that you'd like to at some point?
Oh, probably. There's a lot of great guitar players living in town here that I got a chance to play with already. Larry Carlton, Jerry Reed, Chet Atkins, before he passed away. And ones I haven't jammed with would be like Jeff Beck and B.B. King. Be able to sit down.
Yeah.
Just say you played with those cats. One that would be Pat Martino would be fun. I've played with George Benson a little bit, so I love his playing and fan of his. Who else am I thinking? Oh, I always wish I could have played with Roy Nichols. Roy Nichols is not around; he passed away, but we talked about each other to mutual friends, and just due to geographical distances, we never could get together. I would have loved to have played with him, because he is one of my biggest influences, Roy Nichols. Well, with the Merle Haggard band.
Right. Yeah.
Strangers.
On Alan Jackson's Who I Am album from 1994, a big song you did at that point that a lot of guitarists really loved was I Don't Even Know Your Name. Do you remember what your recording setup was at that time?
Yeah, that was I do remember, and it was a 65 twin, blackface twin reverb. We recorded that at the Castle, which is it's a castle, actual castle converted over to a studio. I think Al Capone had built the castle as a little retreat getaway from the feds, and it was in the middle of Tennessee. And I don't know what went on there. They probably played a lot of poker and did a lot of bad things. But it was later bought by some European guy. Bought it. I don't know who owns it now, but it was turned into a studio. And it's a castle, stone castle, small scale, beautiful place, and sitting on a beautiful lot out in West Nashville, close to Leapers Ford, Tennessee, Franklin, out there. So when I was but that studio, like I said, was a castle. It had a downstairs, so they ran my cables. I was upstairs in the room where there was a fireplace, kind of like where I'm sitting here, in which I got a fireplace in front of me. It was a house, kind of a setup, a living room.
Right.
And the drums were set up in this room, bass, me. My cords were running downstairs into the basement, and down there was a Fender Twin, not a Super, I'm sorry, a Twin Reverb, blackface 65. I bought it off a Red Vocard so many years ago.
Yeah.
He was cleaning out his garage. I bought that, and probably I think I bought another amp, like a Vibrolux or something like that. I played through that, and a telly, my gray telly, just some stomp boxes. I think I had a blue Boss compressor, and a little, I think it was a touch of slap. And I think I was using one of those Boss DD2s or something, whatever was available at that time, DD1.
Right.
At that, which was what was that?
That would be,
early '90s, mid '90s.
You would have probably recorded that about 92, 93.
Yeah. So it would have been just that mainly, no distortion or anything. It was just pure amp after that. It was just a compressor and a slap, a slight slap delay
Wow.
on that song.
How many takes
Well,
on
I didn't
that?
tell you what pants I was wearing there. No,
Yeah. How many takes on the last wild solo of I Don't Even Know Your Name? And did you realize what impact on guitars that solo was made?
No, I would never think that at the time. I just thought it was another one of them fast pieces, you know. Ricky Skaggs threw a lot of them at me. I never thought that one would be a single, to be honest. I thought that's going to get stuck on an album that nobody probably ever hear this one. They'll probably have fun with it out in the club somewhere when they play out in the venue somewhere. But I never thought it would have any impact. The first solo I took on there was right off the cuff. The first solo.
Right.
Didn't punch in or anything on it. That was the take. Whenever I don't know how many takes we did to get the take.
Right.
Might have been the second or third, fourth. But on that take that they used for the record, that was the solo that I went down with. And it was just lucky because I'm a hard guy to get me to convince that solo's okay. I want to punch in on it or do something trickier or something, and Alan goes, no, that's a solo right there. He gets used to them. You know, even before they're mixed, he takes them out on the road on the bus and listens to them. And I want to go back in later and throw in something real tricky, hot, you know, that's going to dazzle. And then I'll do it, and then Alan will get it and go, I like that other solo on there. We got used to it. And I go, okay. And Keith Stegall would tell me, well, Alan wants that other solo. But the second solo on there was acoustic solo. I did that solo. Matt Rawlings was supposed to come in and do a piano solo right there. He couldn't make it in. Something happened. Keith called me. I was just laying around watching TV at the house, and Keith calls me, man, can you come out here and do a solo, acoustic solo? And I lived in Franklin at the time, which I wasn't very far from the castle. So I grabbed an acoustic guitar I had at the house. I just hear it at the house. I grabbed it. I did the acoustic solo in there. That was done after the fact. Then but the third solo, or everybody had a solo. There's third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth solos from everybody. The last electric guitar solo I did get to work on a little bit, but it was on the day of the tracking. Mm-hmm. I just said, let me play that again, the last solo anyway. And they said, okay. So I'd come up with this little double stop thing that had an open string in the midst of you know, that quit started it. Uh-huh. I was way up on the 12th fret on the third strings, and I let that first string being included in some of those double stops, and it kind of give it a cool sound. I'd never played that before, and I was tinkering with that while the guys were getting their solos. I had mine turned down. I was finding this thing. I thought, man, I got to use that in this solo, and that's how it come out.
If you could tour with any artist of any genre, who would it be?
Oh, I mentioned him earlier. I'd love to travel with James Taylor. I like his music and stuff. I think it'd be just a trip to be able to perform and play with him live and hear all this great music every night. And country, you know, it would be fun to play with Haggard or something, you know, and do some of them old songs.
Yeah.
You know, that would probably fit me better. It would be fun to do something, you know, like Sting would be fun, because it's some great worldly music, deep music. It's got jazz, it's got R&B, it's just a melting pot of all the great musics, his music, and you know, a lot of musicians are fans of his because of that reason. You know, it's just like James Taylor, like Sting. It's all about the writing, the composition. It's all lyrics, music, melody, rhythms, everything. All the good things about music are there in their artistry. So it'd be fun to play with them, any one of those guys.
If you could only play one amp and one guitar, what would they be, and what pedals would you use?
Okay, well, that'd have to be my Fender Deluxe 67 Fender Deluxe with my telly and just some stomp boxes, you know, in between. Compressor, delay, some distortions, tremolo, delay, whatever.
Yeah.
Just the basic arsenal.
What's some advice you would give to advanced guitarists who are trying to break into Nashville and might be doing local gigs where they are right now? How do they make that switch from playing cover songs to becoming a great guitarist in Nashville once they move here.
Once they move here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of different angles to try to break in on that, and none of them are easy. But if you are real talented and you've kind of come up with your own style, and it applies to a lot of the music that's going on in town, and what the best way to do is to find an artist who the band is part of the sound, like a Dave. You got Dave Matthews. That's his band's part of the sound, just for example. Go to a lot of writers' showcases, meet some people, hang out. A lot of the writers are the cool in crowd.
Mm-hmm.
When they go and do their demos of their songs, man, you've played with, maybe you've got a chance to play with them out live, and they liked what you did to their composition, and they go, man, let's do that in the studio. And then it's just a chain reaction from there. That song may be pitched to an artist, and they love it. They get a cut, and they'll want to use that same formula every time. Well, I'm going to get you on my next one, man. I got every one of those songs cut that we, it's just getting into a click. You got to find little clicks. They're all over around town. There may be a click over here and one over here. It could be in the kind of the folky, earthy songwriter click at the Bluebird, or it could be playing down at the Wild Horse, in a band that somebody came out and thought, man, he's really smoking it. Brent Mason brought a cool thing to Nashville with his style. There's guys like Reggie Young, and Reggie had his own thing, and it applied to the music. It made it part of the song. What he did, his sound, and you got to steal from the best. I stole from, hey, I do Reggie Young licks to this day because that's just what the song wants. Those R&B little hammer-ons and stuff. And then there'll be some people say, well, that's Brent Mason, put some Brent Mason in there. What that's going to be, spanking the telly, These guys will want to do some Reggie Young. They'll want to do some of my licks, somebody else's licks, but then they're going to find they're going to come up with their own little style, and it's going to fit. It's going to make a song what it is too. So as soon as somebody comes up with that, and it applies to commercial music, and it catches fire. I would say that's my advice to somebody who's wanting to catch a listener's ear, and that may be able to help them in using an artist out on the road. May want to do an audition. I'd say, listen to records real close, find out about tones, find out why that Stratocaster sounded so cool on this cut, find out why that telly sounded bigger than a telly usually sounds. What happened? How come that particular record, that guitar sounded better on that record than it did the last? Just be a study of all this. Listen to the radio, do a little history on music, on guitar, appreciate and understand, the guitar innovators, like why B.B. King can play 2 or 3 notes, but it says more than 1,000 notes. Why, Albert Lee sounds so hot, and what makes his sound so cool, his sound with his picking. It's just study all this, and always think about complimenting the music that you're going to be playing, the artist you're with. Compliment that. What style is going to really complement his song? And then just kind of go out there, and you're going to have a lot of free time on you, to go out there and just kind of get clicks, and don't be pushy. Just kind of be complimentary of people, and let them feel safe with you, and then they maybe say, I heard you were a good guitar player too. Somebody's telling me, yeah, well, I'd love to sit in with you one night. I mean, if you're ever, I know you got a guitar player, but if he's not available, and I'd love to fill in for him. Or if you're doing, just you kind of get in. That's how you get into a click. You don't get pushy, and you don't try to. I mean, there's guys that do it, but you don't try to knock somebody else out of a job. That happens all the time. It's dog eat dog. But I never felt like I wanted to do that. I felt like, it's just being in the right place at the right time. It's hard to drift into town one week and then leave and say nothing happened. You got to be planted here for a while. Check out all the cliques and the scenes, and ultimately, if you're really talented, you will find a home. You will find a way to thread into it, and then you can just climb the ladder from that point.
What do you think is the most important discipline for a guitar player to maintain?
To know when to know not to overplay.
Basically, to play for the song and not.
Yeah, I think I've already covered that earlier. Is to play the song and to complement the song, not overpower it or sound pretentious and be a show off in it, unless it's your own song.
What a lot of people would like to know is if a career in music was just always obvious to you, or if you even had doubts about it before you even started chasing your dreams.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I never was positive that I was going to be here doing what I'm doing. I had a lot of wrong turns I took, or like turns I had no choice to take. But living in Ohio in the kind of out the country, out in the middle of nowhere, there was really the only big city around was Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that was right across the state line. And that's not even a big city. Living in a farm community, it's hard to make a living playing music. Music just seemed to be a hobby for everybody while they worked at General Motors or something. They got to play on the weekends at the VFW. I wanted to obviously make it. This is what I do. I've honed in on my talent, and I play the guitar. So it'd be a shame not to use it to make a living. But there was a time when I thought, I'm not going to do it as a living. Reality hit me. I got out of school. It was all the goofing off time and all the playing at the bowling alleys for tips and stuff like that was over. Now it's when you going to get you a real job, son, boy. Not that's just in general. I felt that all the eyes are upon you now. You're an adult. You went out. I didn't go to college, so they're saying, "What are you going to do with your life now?" Nothing's to be taken lightly now. And I got married real young, and I even put in a application I was joking about it, but General Motors. I was going to work. I went down there and they took me a tour of the foundry, and I was down there where the hot metal was pounding, these big, pistons pounding, and hot metal splashing, and it was like a very gloomy and depressing. I thought, well, that's what I want to be down there. I have a job. And luckily that they had a big layoff about that time. I think it was 79 or they laid off massive people, and I never got hired, and it was a blessing. So I went to work in a toolbox factory, and I'd go out at lunchtime, and I was working with some sheet metal, in the factory part, the shop part, and I'd come out there in the car to get my lunch, and I looked at my hands, and they're all, cut up, and I thought, I'm looking at these hands, and I'm listening to the radio, hearing all these great songs, thinking I'm never going to be a part of that scene. I'm looking at my hands. And every time I hear that James Taylor song about the mill worker, the girl, just can't believe she's staring at her hands, thinking that a person like me should stand a better chance in life than to working for somebody you don't even know whose name's on the label. You don't even know that person. So I felt like that, and then by default, I guess I got laid off there, and I came to Nashville. And I'd sent some tapes and some music to Paul Franklin, and he had really liked it. He said when he was with Mel Tillis and the Statesiders, they'd play it on the bus. So here's this kid sent me this music. So I came to Nashville, and my mom had inherited some money from, my grandma. Her mom had died, and they sold the farm, got a little money. She came down here. I got in a duplex. It was like actually the basement part of somebody's house. My wife, at that time, we all needed a job, and I needed a job, and I got into the Stagecoach Lounge, a honky-tonk place that I played for years. And that ended up being like the hot place where all pickers and, from all over came. It's a weird thing, and that's where it all started. But Yeah, way back there, I thought I had taken the wrong path. I thought my chances go on. I'll never get out of Ohio.
Brent, one of my newsletter members had sent me a question asking me to ask you this. It says, I've been playing for 16 years. I'm a guitar teacher and have a lot of trouble getting the precision with speedy passages, especially with my right hand. I play with a flat pick and a middle finger, which is hybrid style. Any tips on how to get that inhumane speeds? That's from Brandon Crow in Wisconsin.
I'm not the guy to technically tell you how to do your fingering techniques and all that. And for one thing, I don't play like that. I don't play with the straight pick and the middle finger. I play with the thumb pick. It's just, I'll tell you this. When I first started playing guitar, I wasn't really thinking about how am I going to get up to speed, 200 beats a minute or something, It just, I just felt like it needed to go, that this is what I wanted to do, and it did it. I was more concerned with my left hand and more than how smooth I was hitting the notes. Not really concentrating on the right hand. It was just doing its thing. It was like it knew what to do. That side of the brain was working. I was mainly, every time I hit a quick notes here, it was whether it was all picked at once or part of a hammer on or a pull off. It got up to speed somehow. I never really studied my right hand technique. It just, if I heard a fast song and it was at a quick tempo, I kept playing that thing all day till I got it up to speed. And I never really sat down and dissected the right hand finger technique.
Right.
It just did it. I wish there was some magical secret thing I could tell you.
Did you ever practice with the metronome?
No, I never practiced with the metronome back then. When I practiced, it was like vinyl records and setting the turntable and the arm back and forth till I dug out a groove in the record and it couldn't play anymore. No, I didn't really have. Think of it as real primitive ways when I started. I mean, although it wasn't like the days of when Chet Atkins learned to play the guitar from listening to Grand Ole Opry on the radio, sitting on the shelf. We had TV and all that, color TV. But compared to what kids are growing up with now, they can take a song, slow it down, and still be in the same key, and still learn it. No way back then you could do that.
And the big question so many people want to know, where do you get your tone?
There's a music store down on 12th Avenue. They sell them real cheap.
Do they really?
Yeah, I think people trade them in. They come and trade in old tones for new tones or good tones. There's a good tone box. That's what it is. There's a tone box you buy. It says good tone. And you plug in one side input and an output.
The knob you turn up whenever you want.
Yeah, from bad to good. From suck to better. Tone is a combination of a lot of things. It's like you get a good amp, you find a good marriage between a guitar and an amp. Whether it's a Telecaster and a Fender, it's a Les Paul and a Marshall or something, You get that great amp, you get that great guitar, and that's a high percentage of it, but the biggest percentage of it is the touch. Your way if you grab a Les Paul, you're going to play it different than you play a Stratocaster. You're going to have a different touch on it. And it's probably going to be hard for you to get a good tone out of a Les Paul if you've played a Telecaster all your life. You're going to wonder why I'm not getting anything out. It must be the guitar, it must be the strings, it must be the pickups, it must be, that's all a part of it. But it all comes from your touch and your ability to play that. Just, it comes from a lot of practice. Your technique comes from a lot of practice, and a lot of it's psychological. And that's the main part of it, Of course, then comes the great amp, the perfect amp, and the good guitar.
Right, but I've heard you play on little amps, and you still sound like Brent Mason.
Well,
you still sound great.
It's just well, I appreciate that, thanks. But I mean, it is like when you get a hold of that guitar, you're going to get to know that guitar right away. You're going to run across the neck, you're gonna say, nice to meet you. You know, I see what you're like, you know, okay, I'm gonna play. And then you know the amp you're dealing with. You thump your first note. Well, you know the capabilities of that amp and what it can't do and what it can be great for. You start playing, you know, to get the best out of that amp. All of a sudden, it all clicks. It's all you know, everything is in line. All your ducks are in a row. You know, you got it figured out.
You recently have came out with a new guitar from Valley Arts. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, the Valley Arts guys had called me about doing a guitar like mine, and I couldn't figure out why would they want to do a guitar that ugly. I thought, this thing is not, it's got a car primer paint on it. When I bought it, somebody obviously had stripped off the finish and decided, well, I'm not going to refinish it, I'm going to trade it in. So I had gotten it, and by that time had put a middle pickup in it, and I just got the first one Joe Glazer could order, and had a red cover on it, the blade. And that went in the middle, and then somehow I had gold hardware and silver mismatched hardware on it. Just whatever, I don't care. Just, you know, I like what it's going to do. I just gradually had built up this Frankenstein hybrid guitar. Basically started out with basic 68 Tele, you know, maple neck. Nobody had really approached me about doing a guitar, you know, of any company who makes guitars out there. Nobody said, can we make a guitar like yours? Nobody had approached me, and then finally, ironically, at this stage, Valley Arts wanted me to do a guitar. They wanted to do one like mine, and I said, okay, yeah, I'm flattered. Why would you want to do a crazy looking guitar and like this? It's all set up different. And they were excited about it, so I brought my guitar in there. We went over it with a fine-tooth comb, got it all the inner workings of it down through working with Joe Glazer. He, you know, let us all know what. Well, not, you know, I'm not a technician or anything,
right?
But through me, I connected them with Valley Arts guys, the technicians. Joe gave them and then Seymour Duncan, his wiring set up as far as how his pickups were wired and how Joe put them together and the phasing of that. And you know, we messed up a few times and we finally got it right. You know, they got it right. Found out Seymour Duncan had changed the phase on his pickup since I bought those a long time ago, because they wired them identical, and they did, when you did that pole knob in the middle, it went out of phase. Later to find out that he changed the phasing on the pickups after a while. So, you know, all that, you got to go through all that to get it right. The wood, you know, it's a swamp ash, you know, and you got to be careful. Those woods, you get them in, they're different weights all the time because they're waterlogged. You know, they've been waterlogged, and you might get one that feels a little too heavy. And I always thought the lighter one's the better. For some reason, for that kind of guitar, the lighter woods. Because I think the cool thing about that wood, it was sort of perforated because it had been, you know, the water, been in the water, and I felt like it maybe breathed a little more. It had a little better tone, maybe more of acoustic quality because of the perforations in that wood. Very minute, but there, you know, a lot of them. So that, and finally got it all together, just pretty close to my guitar. Of course, the headstock's got to be different to protect them from any lawsuits.
Right.
But the guitar was so different than what originally started out, you know, with the Fender. And we got it down to what we felt like it was a good thing. The only thing it doesn't have is a string bender in it, which is an optional thing. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how they worked that out with Joe or whatever, but you have to do it just like when I got my guitar. It never became a string bender either. I had to put it on. I didn't do it. Joe did it.
What are some comments that people who bought the guitar have told you about it?
Well, I've had different comments on it. Most of them have been good, and I was happy. One guy said the neck was a little too thick for him, woody.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of a neck. I don't know. Maybe it's because when I started playing a long time ago, I played gut string guitars when I was a kid. Or Mexican style guitars, they have big wide necks on them.
Right.
I just love to grab a big old chunk of wood on the neck. I know that tone is going to be there, you know. It's just that feeling of tone. I hated those real thin, cheap, thin line necks. I felt like they get much better tones with some wood. If you can stand playing. I mean, I love that to play them because I'm playing. A lot of guys will grab a neck and just wrap their thumb all the way around the neck and go, "I can't play this thing. How do you play it? Your hands are small. Mine's 2 times bigger." It's because you wrap your thumb all the way around the neck. You got it from the bottom up, down. Your top of your thumb's all the way to the top, and you're trying to play long chords. You don't need your thumb. You just need to put your thumb here. You know,
Right.
you don't even need a lot of thumb on the back of the neck. Just
Right.
get it down low.
So you don't want a big part of your thumb on the neck.
No, you
just
don't
want-
need to. You don't need to clamp on to the back of your neck with your full span of your thumb. Just get the tip of it down on the bottom. If you're going for those long chords,
almost as a balancing.
yeah. I mean, you can always adjust. If you want to grab some neck and you want to get some more leverage on something, you do that. When you're heading for them long, stretchy chords, and then you start to bend your hand down, and the thumb goes down lower on the neck, and maybe just you're touching the tip of your thumb on the top of your thumb on the bottom of the wood of the neck. So,
Right.
so I like wood. You just adjust to it.
Mhm.
It's better toned, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys said I just can't play that neck. You know, it was just kind of a little too big for me.
Yeah. Well, I've played your.
And I understood them. You know, I said, yeah, well, that's not your guitar then.
Yeah, well, I've played your telling. I've played the Valley Arts, and I liked them both. They both seem very
Yeah.
similar.
Thanks.
On your Fender Deluxe, how do you like to set the amp? Bass, mid, treble,
Okay.
basically.
Well, like I said, I've got the stock Jensen speaker and the blue Jensen speaker in there. I've had it reconed, of course, since its original state. But with that in there and the tubes that it has, turn the volume at about no more than 3.5 on there. That's all you need on that amp. And if you get up to 4, you're really it's gonna sound mushy. You can turn on about just on the edge of 4, and it'll give you a good, like a Stonesy kind of tone. But it's just those type of tubes in there aren't good, really putting a lot of volume on them, input volume. I would put the volume there about no more than 3.5, and the treble. I don't have a treble switch on there. I don't have a bright switch on there. It's just like it is. Treble about 5, no more than 5.5. 6, a little too much, a little too edgy for this type of speakers. You're going to get that annoying kind of treble sound out of them. The bass, 5 or 6 on the bass. Any more than that, you're going to get it's going to be a little low mid kind of boxy sounding on it. That's about all you have on that amp. I mean, other than tremolo settings, which that's adjustable to wherever you want. Volume, bass, and treble is all the main ones on that amp. I always say the amp with less knobs, the better. The better it's going to sound.
I've noticed sometimes you've used like a twin, like if you're playing out live somewhere.
That's got a little more, requires a little more nurturing. I think
Does
the
it?
twins because they have the bright switch and the mid really plays a key on how much treble you got, and how much. So you may want to flip the bright switch down, turn the treble up, but then bring the mid range down, or turn the bright switch on, then bring a little more mid range into it, but then you have to turn the treble down. It's just all. It looks like it's like messing with a combination to a safe. It's like dialing in the combination to that. So it's a little more complex, But that's nothing compared to what some of these amps they got now that they're trying to do everything. I don't like those amps. Like does it pretty good, but not great on every amp sound you got. Almost, but no cigar. So that's the thing about Deluxe. You don't have to screw around with it long to know where it's going to sound good. It's settings where you got 3 knobs. Go for it.
When you're recording in the studio, do you always mic your amp, or do you ever use any sort of processor straight to board?
No, I always mic the amp these days. I mean, back in the 80s and stuff, we were running direct out of preamps and, amp emulators and stuff like that. But I found out it's best just to put a good 57 in front of that amp and just let it honk. You can put a condenser mic up there with it, try to do a little combination blend, but the old trusty 57 still is a good mic for those tube amps.
Would you use the same basic amp effect guitar setup in a live situation? It's like, let's say you're playing for the CMA Awards and you have to play a bunch of different people's stuff.
I would I'd probably use a little more power on my amp. I'd probably bring in a twin or something. But I mean, if it was distorted or edgy, I'd rely on foot pedals to do it for me. Instead of taking a tweed basement or something, which is going to break up. It's going to sound great if that's the type of song.
Right.
But if they want something really clean, it wouldn't be able to do it. To turn it down so low, it'd be too drastic of a volume change. So I'd take a twin for that, just because I want the push from back. I'm the old school guy. I like the sound hit me hard from back, not little earphones and stuff, little ear monitors. Direct. I can't stand it. I got to have a real amp blowing behind me.
I heard a story that the Rolling Stones actually wanted you to play on a tour at one time.
Yeah, and that's not quite true. It wasn't the Rolling Stones. It was. You remember when Mick Jagger broke off from the Stones, and they sort of falling out.
Right. And solo thing.
Keith Richards and me. Well, about that time, I guess they'd asked, maybe Mick had asked Mark Knopfler to do it with him, from Dire Straits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mark, I knew Mark, and he played a little together in those days. And he had recommended that Mick call me. He said, "We got to get Brent Mason, Scott from Nashville." So then it got passed on down to Chet Atkins. Chet called me and said, somebody left a message on my machine, and I don't think it was Mick Jagger, but his manager. It was a British accent, and it said that Mick. He said we needed. It wasn't Mick because it was his. I don't know who his manager was. It was a British accent, and I thought it was guys. Some of the musicians screwing with me. I never even called back because I thought somebody's screwing me. Okay, I'm not very funny. And when I asked the guys I play with, I said, "Did you call me and do that fake British accent?" And I said, "No." Oh man, somebody did it. It was crazy. And then a little bit later, Chet Atkins had called, and I knew it was Chet. There would have been a time where I thought somebody was faking me out there too, but no, I already met Chet, and he was, he helped me out quite a bit. And he called. He goes, "Hey, this was on. We had those, little cassette player codophones. Hey, did Mick Jagger's guys get a hold of you? And they're wanting to see if you'd want to go out and do a tour with them." I went, "What? Oh no, you got to be kidding me!" This was weeks after. Well, blew my mind, but that's something I think. I'm not sure that I think Jeff Beck had maybe did part of the tour, or Jeff Beck had joined.
Right.
Of course, that was taken care of then, and that didn't last long anyway. That was they got right back to where they needed to be.
Yeah.
Right. Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, and back to the Stones, where everybody was happy. Finally.
Right.
That didn't live long.
How often is a vocalist in the studio and singing while you cut your tracks?
Oh, they're always singing.
Mm-hmm.
They're always singing there. I mean, if they care anything about the record and they don't have any input, and they want to get it in the right key, they're going to be there singing.
Do you guys always record live, or is it generally multi-tracked?
It's multi-tracked. I mean, we try to get isolation between the instruments. Once in a while, we'll do something, like real retro and try to sit around a microphone with acoustics in the round and kind of do that, give it that vibe. But that's a very rare thing. So yeah, it's all multi-tracked, and the singers usually not concentrating on nailing their vocal part. It's just want to basically get everybody in the right key. They want to make sure that they're singing and this song's going to be in the right key. And also they can have input on the arrangement of it. It's their song. They're going to have to be singing it forever when they go out and do their tours if it's a single. So they're there. They're always there. And the only thing, there's been times when we did this Willie Nelson album, Willie wasn't there. And he just couldn't be there. And boy, it's hard when the artist is not there. We had a stunt singer, Scotty Emmerich, that sings with Toby Keith. He did a good Willie. So he's kind of like the modern day Willie Nelson, he with his gut string. He sang, and it actually ended up good. And the only thing we had to go back and redo a couple songs. They were in the wrong key, but Willie could afford it.
When you're in the studio, do you basically just get the initial sound and then the producer will add reverb or delay, or do you try to get it all from your pedals?
If it's part of the sound. Like if it's a rockabilly song, I'll put the slap on myself, and because I like effects coming out of an amp. Unless they suggest that, hey, I'd rather put the effects on the mix. Can you take that delay off? Sure, yeah. I mean, they got a pretty good idea what they want to do with it. They got an idea. I said great, but reverb, I don't record with reverb because a lot of times my sound's mono anyway. And if they want to put reverb, they got stereo reverb. If I record with the mono reverb, unless it's some kind of weird, quirky thing where it's like a West Coast, you want spring reverb from a Fender amp, that kind of where it's drowned in, then I will, but I don't really do that. I record no reverb off of the amp, and then I certainly don't have any digital reverb pedals.
Right.
So reverb is something I don't mess with. But I'll use a compressor because I think a guitar compressor sounds cool rather than a studio compressor.
Right.
It's just where it's in the chain, and everything, and what it does to the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And like a delay, if you want to use, I'll use a Line 6 pedal because it's a modulator. It has, it's got tape slap on it. It sounds really cool. Or it's got a analog delay or echo plex kind of sounds. It's got all the sounds, so you can dial. You can get all those great echo plex sounds, and that's something they wouldn't probably have in there or mess with when it come down to mixing it. They wouldn't be giving your guitar all that attention. So I like to put delay on, compression, and the distortion, of course, and maybe some delay. But that's probably the real sensitive thing is the delay, because that's something they can't take away. If they decide they don't like delay, it's on there, buddy. It's going to be hard to get rid of that. You could try hard, but it's going to play with the tone. So I want to make sure I got the right intensity and not overpowering my regular signal, because delay can have a tendency to fog the rest of your tone. It jumps out in front of your actual tone, and it actually can make you sound smaller in a track than you're thinking.
Right.
So the delay is the real key thing there. Compression. Make sure you're not over compressed. Make sure when you're using all those stuff that's exactly the way you perceive this song, or you want it to come out too. Mm-hmm. You don't want it to be over compressed.
Right.
And because they can't take it off. And reverb for sure. They can reverb something that it's just the whole concept of the song. If the song's going to sound real dry and flat, and your guitar has reverb, it's not going to fit in.
Okay, so far you've done a player's CD, which is kind of all the A-list of session players in Nashville, and then you've done Hot Wired. Any new plans for a new CD? I know you have a DVD coming out for the players.
Yeah, the players part of it, we have a DVD coming out, which had a bunch of guests on it, like Peter Frampton and Sean Colvin, Vince Gill, Travis Tritt, Jim Horn, sax player. They played with the Beatles. So, and who else was on that? Alan Jackson was. His portion's not on there. Maybe it just didn't fit the venue, or not the venue, but the rest of the styles of music. It didn't. But all those other artists are on there, and and we're all playing with them, and that's kind of, we're doing some of our instrumentals off that album, plus playing with the artists and doing their thing. And that's coming out in October. That's the Players. And the only thing we talked about, new is to go into the club and tape video about 3 gigs, and picking out the great takes of our music, like a set or something, whether it be about great, 10 or 11 songs on a video. It'd be really great for the musicians to see us all really cooking on our instruments, It wouldn't have to be a big extravagant thing. So we're talking about that. Nothing's set in stone on that. And then I want to get an album out by, first next year into this year. So, I'm still kicking around the idea. I just got to get things going on it. I got some instrumentals written. So I'm going to try to get, let's follow up on a Hot Wired by the end of this year, starting on in fall, at least this fall.
So when people want to check out and see,
maybe get it out sooner.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when people want to check and see if your CD's out, should they go to brentmason.com?
Yeah, that's going to be you'll know right away if you go there. It'll be obtainable there.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk to me about all this stuff and answer all the questions we've had. I know I've had tons and tons of questions from my mailing list, and just tons of people have asked me all types of different things about country tone and Brent Mason this, Brent Mason that. So it's great to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed it, man. Hey, good luck with everything, and hope this answers some questions for some people out there.
And that's the final part of the interview. I know it's a little bit longer than normal. Hopefully you guys dig it. If you have any comments or questions, email podcast@wamplerpedals.com. I don't recall that much from this interview, so if you have any questions about this particular interview, I don't recall other than I was sitting at his house on a very nice sofa in a very nice living room looking out at a very nice summer day. And I was pretty starstruck at the time. So you might be able to tell it. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week with a new episode. Later.